We've been in a drought for the last 40 years that I know of because we just keep using water. Our water tables are getting down lower and lower and lower. And so
Hmm.
anytime we are going to prioritize a thing over human life, I see problem with that. It's so hard because the way I look at it is everything that I do is for the next generation, right? If I'm doing my job appropriately, like I said, I'm looking out for the environmental impacts for tomorrow. So that's trying to help our next generation.
Well, guys, I have a special guest here today. His name is Jason Mevissen, Tried and True Water Solutions. Jason, can you just share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm a master water conditioning expert. So I really just have a passion of getting people clean, good water. The amount of stuff that's kind of in our water and going on with us as a whole is just kind of a little bit worrisome, and so I like to take that step towards safeguarding my family anyways, and those that choose to, and try to give everyone the best water that we can actually have.
And like, what about, give me a little bit of your background. How did you end up kind of finding your way into helping people with their water?
Yeah, so I have a plumbing background, so I was a apprentice plumber for 3.5 years, right up until COVID happened, and I was working for a small company at the time. And so, like much of small companies at the time, they had to downsize and cut their overhead to protect themselves. So I was part of that overhead that got cut, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and so at that point, I was doing service work, so I was going to everyone's houses, actually fixing the problem. And when you had just the amount of experience that I had at the time, there's two options. Is pretty much you could go into new construction or you could go into a union job, which is most likely going to be new construction. I'm not the youngest buck anymore, so I didn't really want to work out in the heat and the cold and the rain, the snow, the sleet. I
Yeah.
was accustomed more to the inside work there. And so then I just kind of really took a deep dive into what I really liked about plumbing, and obviously, no one really likes the dirty water aspect of it. And so that's where I started
Mm.
really kind of liking when I was cleaning the water and dealing with water quality. I really liked that aspect. So then I shifted gears and I went to one of the other larger companies in the area that solely just do water conditioning, and I kind of learned on kind of how they do things and how they operate, the ins and the outs, and kind of started really getting a grasp of the knowledge that I ended up having to go and do a bunch of continued ed to gather more knowledge on.
Yeah.
So um, yeah, it's been a kind of a wild ride, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy every aspect of learning about the nuances of our water and ways of actually treating it, fixing it, and making sure that we have the best quality water for the best health that we can actually have.
Yeah. The So for me, right, like I'm a general contractor, so we go in remodel kitchens and different things, and it's always interesting because like after a certain time of helping people like with the remodel, and they get like a new fridge, and the fridge has a filter on it, right? And
Yep.
then I and then they had an old fridge for 20 years. They did, their own filtered water, and they never had any water issues before. Like for example, the mainly I think what happens, right, the first thing that someone notices beyond like a water, when they move in somewhere, besides like the coloring or something like that, is the amount of flow per second and the water pressure. And so what usually happens is that they engage on, they'll be like engaging their water from like a somewhere where it discharges or whatnot, and then they'll notice it's getting slow. that's like the first thing that I think when I get a phone call, it's usually that's the water pressure is the first thing. But after hanging out with you, it's crazy because like the things that I thought I knew about, for example, larger corporations or in like when people buy like a unit from Home Depot or soft, like they'll buy all this different things that they think they need without testing it, and then they'll have like a water pressure issue either way. Can you kind of go through like when you're first going into a house, what do you feel like the first, before you get to that spot where either your water is turning your tub like orange and before your filter is getting clogged, what are like some of the first practical steps that someone can do to kind of avoid having those issues?
I mean, it all kind of depends. Every water is a little bit different, So I mean, it depends if we're working with well water, if it's extreme well water. There's some areas in Oswego and Dayton that the city water is just horrible. It has tons of sediment in there, and that's totally different than almost any other municipality out there. And so that's where each house is a little bit different, and that's where we actually have to come in and do our due diligence of each home and inspect it to the proper standards to find out what we're all dealing with, what the homeowners actually have that kind of triggered their alarms that they really wanted to accomplish. So that way, when we're formulating or building our systems, we're going to accomplish what we need to do, but also what the homeowners want, what their objectives are.
Yeah.
So each home is a little bit differently how we approach that, but it usually just starts with a conversation with the homeowners about what their wants and desires are.
So with the general question, right, is my water safe? I think, last week we had this conversation with one of ours, is like, I'm in a group text and they're like, is my water safe? So for context, that we had a homeowner that had they weren't able to, we're doing a kitchen remodel, so they weren't able to use their kitchen and water first time, and they moved out of the house. So then when they went to go turn on everything, it came out like black, like a really dark black. And so the home was built in 1993-ish, so it has copper going through it. And I think, the question, even if you're in a new home that's tied to city water, what are like, what is there like a rule of thumb that someone can start with to figure out, this is something that is an actual concern of ours that we should start going through?
So it's really hard because everyone's view on safe is a little bit different. Now, if we go to the EPA standards or the Minnesota state standards, almost every house in the state's going to pass their standard testing.
Wow.
The sad
Yeah.
thing is that they say that there's a safe level of arsenic to be drinking. Well, in my opinion, there's zero amount of rat poison that I want to feed myself or my family.
Yeah.
Um,
Real quick, what's arsenic? That's a mineral in the ground that we have in Minnesota.
well, yeah, I mean, it comes in two forms. There's actually a natural form that is a mineral. It comes in the rock formation that as the surface water degrades through the ground, it pulls out and dissolves that rock, and we get some of that natural arsenic in the actual water that way.
Hmm.
There's also the man-made arsenic that unfortunately we as a society as a whole have been very poor stewards of our environment and our
Hmm.
communities. And there's been a lot of uh, maybe illegal, maybe not illegal.
Yeah.
Just maybe it's just some bad practices of dumping and not doing their due diligence of chemicals throughout the years,
Hmm.
and that's kind of what has led us to the problems that we are seeing in society as a whole today.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, well, and that's something that's always really interesting, right? Because I've had the opportunity to travel quite a bit. And so, like, for example, there's like common phrases like "Don't drink the water in Mexico" or whatnot. And so we're like making jokes like "Don't drink the water of city the city of Ramsey," uh, but not that it not that it's true or not, but it's like I think there is a real conversation that does need to be had about that because like different health symptoms, right? It's like it's not that drinking it once isn't the issue. It's so many homeowners are in their house 10, 15 years, and so it doesn't get better over time. I think that's one of the like something that people believe is like, if I just run it and it's going to run the course and then change the filter, it's just going to get better. But I think like you're saying, it really a lot of us as a service community need to get better at dissecting first and foremost, and then the other one is like you said is the goal of the homeowner. What is safe, what like obviously the most pure water is great, but then different RO systems and things like that, they don't actually put minerals back in the water, so you'll drink it and then feel kind of like thirsty again. Why is that?
Uh, well, the remineralization of the water, it's kind of it's almost a taboo subject. Some of the minerals, yes, you kind of want it. Some of them you might not necessarily want. Um, the real purpose. So I usually do run a remineralization filter, but what I use is actually a calcite filter, and that's typically more of a pH balancing filter.
Hmm.
And it's just because as we purify that water, it tends to drop the pH of the water.
Yeah.
And so if we were drinking, say, orange juice or something like that all day, we kind of know what that's going to start to feel like. And so that's in the acidic range of that 6 to 6.5 on the pH scale, and that's what average is for RO water. Can
Yeah.
dip down even a little bit further than that. And so I run that calcite just to help kind of remineralize it and bring that back up to a 7 on the pH scale, which is going to be a balance. Um, just for those aspects. Uh, when I talk about water itself, we shouldn't be looking at water as a whole as that's where we need to get all of our vitamins and minerals.
Hmm.
That's really where we need to have a well balanced diet, and we need to know where our food is coming from, how it's being processed, how it was grown, how it was raised. That's what we need to know on that aspect.
Yeah.
And so that's where we try to take, the body as a whole, right? And so we try to take the healthy aspect of it, because whatever we're putting in our body for clean water, we want to also have our food being grown or given that kind of water as well. Otherwise, it's kind of all for none in a way.
Yeah. And
So it's yeah.
oh no, I think that was a really good point, right? Is like the chemical the different chemicals and different nutrients and stuff like that in water is it's such a really deep subject. Like if you ever owned a fish tank, it's like reading a like a what is that, like a chemist magazine. Like when I
Yeah.
first got my fish during COVID, and I was like putting water from Elk River in there, and then like my fish was like not floating correctly. And then so then you watch a couple YouTube videos, and then you're pretty soon you're like almost a conspiracy theorist about water, like really quickly. So
Oh,
what
yeah.
are some safeguards? Like what do you feel like the like for example, like here's a question that I get a lot. Like is clear water always safe to drink? Like if you're at a house or at like even well water?
So that's a very touchy subject, because you can go out hiking in the mountains of, say, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, pick a beautiful area, and you can be up in the mountains having the freshest, clean mountain water coming out, and you're still worried about giardia, right?
Right,
So
right.
now fast forward to our low water tables and not necessarily as fresh water. I mean, there's still some things that can be in our water that may be present that could or could not be harmful.
Hmm.
Mostly in our area, it's the amount. So almost everything is consumable. It's just the amounts that you actually get where it actually starts to get sickening. And so that's where
Yeah.
I've been in houses that, all of a sudden the water starts testing positive for chloroform bacteria, which can
Wow.
be related to E. coli, and the family still feels fine, but the
Mm.
water is testing positive, right? And so that's not to say that you're not going to get sick over the long term from that, but that's also not to say that you're not going to get sick in short term. That's just to say that sometimes it takes time for our bodies to build these things up.
Yeah.
Our bodies are kind of bacteria in a way, all as it is. So we kind of
Yeah.
need some of these things to build our immune systems to fight off other things. So it's still a touchy subject. Would I go around and drink any glass of water that someone gives me? If I was dying of thirst, yeah, absolutely. But when I go into random people's houses and they're like, "Do you want a glass of water?" I usually bring mine. Thanks, though.
Yeah. That's wild. I think that's so funny because it's like um it, I think it's funny because like for example carpenters, plumbers, we're not known to being the most particular about what we put in our bodies, right? Because our
No,
life is like as we move. But I think, for example, like the more education that comes out on microplastics, right? My wife went like, I don't know, probably a month deep into like Netflix documentaries, microplastic stuff. And then I'm like, how you can't, it's something that you can't avoid it, but you can, your exposure to it can be lessened. And
absolutely.
especially like I'm going like trying to learn more about fertility stuff and all that, and that was like one of the things that came up in the microplastics world. And especially like for me, I basically live in my car serving people, and then whatever is there, I eat it and I drink it, for
Gas
so many
station food.
years.
That's a service industry, right?
Yeah, yeah, and one of the what is it like the relief site? I mean, like the maybe not word isn't relief, maybe like a token of gratefulness to Quick Trip, but there's only so much Quick Trip I can do.
Yeah, yeah,
but, but my point is I think dissecting and figuring out like what is expected is so important because even with well water at my house, right? So I live in Zerman. We have levels of like what is that? So iron in our water, like ton of
hmm,
iron and things like that. But iron isn't, from what I understand, isn't as impactful as arsenic is to your body. But you may, but depending on your exposure level. And so I think that's to bring it back to what we're going through is like figuring out one what is in your water and then the next part is what to do with that, but it's not a one size fits all. It's more of like it's almost like a doctor going through the symptoms and then but even before the symptoms you're looking at like what is the intake into your body, so it's like you're like a nutritionist in that way. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love referring you is that the experience that people have, they're not being sold something in the sense of like I'm gonna get you this, this, and this, and but you're slowing down and be like, well, what is your guys' goals now? What is what is your level of like what does clean drinking water mean to you? And then also, is there any symptoms or things like that that you have? And I think that's something like in our area, like where I grew up, like we a lot of my I have a part of my family that all have like cavities and all that, right? And it's funny because like the generation before us was good, and then it's ours, and it's not just I'm not just talking about like sugar and things like that. I'm talking about like unnatural decay of teeth, and then the dentist always asks that. Like, what are you drinking every day? Are you drinking? I remember that they used to be like, do you just drink shower water? Like, and I'm like, well, technically, I have no clue. They just asked me that the last time I was in there, and and I think the two worlds need to connect.
Mhm.
You know, beyond the water heater, beyond the well, like, you know, just what goes in your house. I think what you're doing is doing a great job at connecting both worlds of the practicality of the plumbing world that you've been in, and then also because of your own health journey and your family's health journey. I think it's a beautiful thing that you've been able to bring together and help a lot of people. And it's like it's a rare thing to see because like we for remodeling, right, we call different plumbers or our main plumber, and this area is like really great. He's like, oh, just get this in there, and then not that it's not that he doesn't care or know his stuff, but he's not always asking the questions because he was there to do a different type of job. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah,
That,
absolutely. And so when it comes down to it, I mean, just like in your field, right?
hmm
There's a contractor for everyone, right? It's some people are just looking for that budget contractor that can just do it as quick and you know just as quick as can be.
yeah,
And then other people want that contractor that's going to kind of hold their hand, that's going to walk them through all the steps, that's going to take the time, that's going to just kind of make sure that they're asserting and getting all the things that they really want and dream of, right?
yeah,
And so with that being said, like plumbers can put in most of my same equipment,
yeah,
but do they have the knowledge that you need to know what's going on with the water? And do they
yes,
really care enough, right? And so
yeah.
when I try to look at it like that,
That's so good. Yeah,
like look at your own health. Like you have a runny nose, you go to the general practice, right?
hmm
But like if you shatter your leg or your ankle, you're not going to go see a lung doctor because you broke your foot.
right.
You want to go see a specialist for your foot.
Yeah,
And so that's kind of how I am, right? I'm
mhm,
not I can be your general practice. If you're just looking for just a water softener and nothing more, I can absolutely help you out, right?
yeah,
But if you're really looking for that specialist that's going to dive deep and try to figure out what's going on, the nuances, and really try to help you, that's really that's my bread and butter. That's
yeah,
my jam. It's what I really love doing. It's where I can really kind of think and flex my brain
hmm
and we all have to exercise that like on a daily basis because if we don't, we start losing it, right?
yeah, yeah. And I think I got some questions here that came in. So we put them on here. So what are the most common water issues you see in Minnesota or like our area of Minnesota, which is like northwest of the Twin Cities and greater? What are some of the most common things you see around like Sherburne County, for example?
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to like well water, I mean, some of the most common things that a lot of people actually miss and skip are we deal with a lot of iron related bacteria and sulfate reducing bacterias. Both of them are deemed through the state of Minnesota and the EPA as non harmful to humans or animals.
Mhm.
I've seen them pretty thick in some people's houses, and the most I've ever heard was maybe a slight tummy issue or whatever from time to time.
Yeah.
But if we don't deal with iron related bacteria itself, let's say, if you're not dealing with that, you're still going to have the iron issues. So the bacteria itself eats iron and it excretes iron.
Mm,
So if you have an iron filter in place, but it's not actually dealing with the bacteria, you're still going to have slime bacteria that ends up on the backside of your filtration system. And
man,
you're going to be
yeah,
like, I just spent how much money on this filtration system that XYZ swears that it was going to fix, and I still have
man,
issues.
that's so good. Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
even those little nuances that a lot of people skip. It's those things that is like, well, hey, you don't have to deal with it, but if we don't deal with it, there's still going to be recurring issues. And so that's something that we deal with a lot. And I mean, it's so much to the point where when you buy and sell a house, um, on well water, the state mandates a well water test for safety. And for the common loan, it's a 4 panel test. And for a VA loan, it's like an 8 panel test. It's a little bit more extreme. Neither one of
Hmm.
those tests are required to test for those. That's how deemed non-harmful they are. They're just nuance, uh, new, uh, just
Yeah. Don't worry.
just trouble.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, that was good. And how about this? How often should homeowners test their water? Do you, is there like a common rule that you try to stick to?
well, so it's recommended that well water gets tested once a year, at least for like the nitrates and nitrites, and I believe it's for the arsenic levels. Um, you should have a baseline, and that's for well water. City water is usually deemed safe. The cities are testing their water, are supposed to test their water once a year and submit all those tests to the EPA themselves. And you can actually find the city's water reports online
Yeah.
that they pull. So the city, I mean, it's here again. It becomes what you deem as safe, right? And so it kind of varies, I guess.
Yeah. What I have a question. Like after it rains, a lot of times people will experience different sediment and like more or less. I would maybe the term would be more things that they notice in their water. Do you know why that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, well water, especially well water, it fluctuates so much with our rain and droughts and stuff like that. So when we get a heavy rain, we actually are super saturating the ground, and we're getting a lot more ground infiltration. So groundwater that's is soaking down in, and then it hits our aquifer, and then we're starting to get that. And when we start to get like a large amount, it's almost too much for the ground itself to kind of filter out because we use our ground as a huge filter. It's a giant sand filter in a way.
Hmm.
And so when it overloads our sand filter, it starts to flush that out down into our aquifers. And we tend to get a lot more tannins in our water. So you'll notice kind of more of a yellowing or a green in your water. Um, I tend to say that if you look in your toilet in the morning and it looks like somebody used it without flushing the toilet, that's going to be more of a sign of tannins. Where if it's
Hmm.
more orange or red, it's going to be more of that iron. Um, and those are more common, definitely when it rains or we get that heavy rain. So our aquifer is basically like one giant underground river. And so
Yeah.
I've seen it where two wells are the exact same depth, the pumps are the same depth, the houses are 100 feet, 100 yards apart or whatever. And one house has fantastic raw water going into it, and the other one just has horrible, horrible water. And
And
there's no
you always end
explanation
up living.
except there's like an underwater divide, you know?
You're always living at the other one. You know, the one that's lesser.
Yeah,
So funny.
like it's and so that's where I've had some of my customers are geologists, and I get have the opportunity to
Yeah.
sit there and question them for hours because I
Hmm.
what I that's what I dig. It is just
Yeah.
information, and
Sweet.
and that's what they kind of tell me is their job is that they'll be drilling wells following the ground plumes of chemicals, whether it be PFAS, PFOS, or deoxin 114, or anything like that, whatever they're trying to find, and they'll be running a straight line for a half mile, and all of a sudden it'll horseshoe back on itself just like a creek would on the surface. So our groundwaters kind of do the same thing. It's just really hard for us to picture it because we think that we're just basically floating on a giant island, right?
Right. Right. Man, it's so good. I think well, and that was the other thing, right? Is like I made a mistake because I generalize different areas. For example, like when I go to like a part of Ramsey, I'm like, oh yeah, these guys are in like they probably have water issues, and then I go into Zimmerman. I'm like, oh yeah, these guys. And then sometimes I find out, they never had any issues, and it's like one house over, and it's like they have the same systems, but what they're exposed to is different. It's a really fascinating uh, topic, and I I do want to be mindful of time, but I have like kind of some speed round questions that will probably be not able to be answered really fast. But I think this is a good some good stuff. So let's say someone's waiting for you to come out there, and they're nervous, or they've noticed something about their water. Can they, like, some of the things that you've learned is the boiling water, removing contaminants and stuff like that. How far does that actually help? And is it something that is like incredible that everyone should start doing it? And does your water heater help with killing some of that stuff off or removing it?
So boiling water, that is referring to killing any sort of bacteria that actually might be in the water column
Hmm.
itself. So like city water, when you hear boiling, a boiling alert or whatever,
Hmm.
they usually have lost pressure, or they lost control of their sanitization aspect of it. And so they are worried that you may actually have a bacteria or pathogen in your water. When you're thinking
Crazy.
about actually boiling water, and like you're thinking, you're actually thinking contaminants, like say microplastics, for instance, you're almost actually going to end up um, consolidating them and making it more so, because you're actually boiling the water out.
That's awesome.
So it's kind of that hit and miss. So boiling water is for bacteria purposes. It's not necessarily for PFAS, PFOS, and
Yeah,
those sorts of chemical contaminants.
yeah. The reason why we have this is I actually have a family member that they this is what they do, and they live on a farm, right? And so we have a family member that will like do this, and I never thought about it. Like, is that legit? I'm like, I don't know. Sounds cool.
Most chemicals have to hit a certain boiling point or a certain point to actually degrade and become inert.
Yeah.
So most of our infernaries here in the United States hit a burn point of between 1200 and 1500 degrees, to make those chemicals inert. And unfortunately, there are still some chemicals out there that we know that they're PFAS, PFOS related, actually lithium based related PFAS, PFOS, that actually have flash points or inert points of 1800 plus. So we
Crazy.
don't
So you're
even
not
have
even touching
capabilities necessarily of
it.
dealing with those here.
Yeah, that's crazy. You need water from like a volcano, just like it's like gotta. That's I had no clue. I've never learned that or heard of that. That's how hot. I mean, I assume it is hot, but I never gone through it. So does a softened water remove chemicals then?
So water softener removes the actual the calcium
Hmm.
from the water. It will remove the manganese to a certain aspect from the water, and it will actually start to reduce some lead from the water. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
and it actually it will remove whatever it can bind to it. And so how the actual water softener works, without getting too nerdy on you, it works through the ionic exchange process.
Right.
So we get down to all the
And
way
that
to the, what
is
was
that
that?
a complex word? Is that a complex word for prayer? It's like
So the
prayer.
ionic exchange.
I'm just joking.
So we're going all the way down to the molecular level. So everything has a positive, negative, and neutral charge in our world.
Uh,
And so
yeah.
the calcium and magnesium, and a lot of those things in the water are going to have that positive ionic charge. And so the media inside our tank is a silicon rosin, and that has a negative ionic charge. And so we actually use the salt as a neutral to break that bond between the two.
This is
And so
incredible.
anything that's in our water column that actually has a positive ionic charge is going to have a chance of binding to your water softener. And so
That's
I
why
can't
there's all the
necessarily.
salts in there.
Yep.
Okay.
And so we
Okay.
use the salt as a breaking to break the
Yeah.
bond between the positive negatives.
I'll let my
So
wife know it's not magic, you know? I'm like, well, it's funny because she was asking me the other day, like when we're going through the water stuff, I'm like, I don't know. It's probably magic. I, I don't know. I, does chlorine make your water unsafe?
well, chlorine itself can be considered a toxin in high enough levels, right? And so
Hmm.
that's where some people say, yeah, it's unsafe to even consume a little bit or have any of it on you, and other people are less worried about that. Um, I I actually find it very unpleasant to smell it if I'm drinking it,
Oh,
and
dude,
so that's where
100%. Like you go to an
um,
apartment in Maple Grove. Oh man, like
right,
there's a
like
couple of
super
places.
chlorine.
Oh,
And
like
that's where like you'll go down and sit down at some restaurants, and you're like, yeah, I'll have a
mhm.
glass of water, and you're like, oh my gosh, like you can't even give me
Oh,
filtered water.
that's so good.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so so to me, it's very off putting. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it's very off putting. So I tend to stay away from it as far as
What,
I can.
what about?
When I Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm getting really excited trying to like learn about this. Keep going. Excuse me.
No, I was just gonna say when it comes to me and my family, we try to stay with at least a good carbon filtered water, if not reverse osmosis water, just to safeguard us as much as possible. So
Yeah. Do you, when you go out like at different places, do you basically just bring like a camel pack or like your own, you're like, you go to a restaurant, you're like, excuse me, and then you pour your own glass. Like,
sometimes it feels that way. Like I said, I do bring at least a half gallon with me wherever I go, even if it's just out and about on the weekend.
yeah,
I have my giant thermos with me of our RO filtered water,
yeah.
um, and then yeah,
You, you
it's
probably
just
become, you've probably became like the sommelier of water. Like the guys that do all the wine testing and they have like 1,000 different wines and we should do
yeah.
that. Hey, the next time I meet with you, we're gonna do a video where I'm gonna go and get water from like different cities. I'm gonna have you like guess which water's which.
Oh, geez. It's funny. I mean,
I think you could
there's
do
a
it.
difference between water and
Really?
that's like some people ask if you can tell the difference, and me personally, I can. And maybe that's something I should do is I should bring you some water,
Oh, dude,
and I should
you
bring you
should.
some regular tap water, some carbon filtered water, a
Dude,
regular RO water, and the calcite RO water, and see if you can tell the difference.
I'm serious. We're gonna do it. We need to do a follow up of these. There's so many questions. Like, I think that'd be so fun. I do have another question. What's
Yeah.
what's your stance on ice? Like like ice coming from, a fridge or ice maker. Uh, what like is that? Would you consider having like a different type of filter for ice?
I mean, so when I'm inside your home and you have an ice maker, whether it's a standalone, built in or inside your refrigerator, and you want some really good ice, and we're doing like an RO system, I usually try to hook that up to the RO system, right? Because that's going to
Mm,
give you the cleanest, clear, best ice we can give you.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it should. Here again, I mean, a minimum of a good carbon filter should be on your ice makers because we're still getting some stuff through our ice. The biggest thing is that we want to make sure that we're getting clean ice, and so the problem with getting ice and getting ice out of like ice machines from say restaurants or like
yeah,
that pulled over shop at the gas station or any place like that, it's kind of like the same way as I look at getting your water from say Cub
yeah.
Foods or something, right? When
Mm-hmm.
was the last time it was cleaned? When was
Yep.
the last time the filters were changed? Who
Never.
serviced it last? Did they do it appropriately?
Yeah.
There's going to be all those questions in place. So, is your ice safe? is it stuff that you should be using? Is it really something that you should be consuming?
Yeah.
I
And
rather I rather produce it myself, so I know.
yeah, yeah, and that's like a rule of thumb. I mean, traveling you kind of have that, but I've like my rule of thumb is like even a restaurant here, I get made fun of because I always like say no ice, you know.
Hmm.
But I never probably from like 20 years old after I experienced like working in a restaurant. And because it's just like it's either an open container, you know, and they're just kind of scooping it, or it's like a container that literally has no liner on it, and it's been there for 15 years, and I just, anyways, it's a really deep like thing to kind of, you don't want to get paranoid about it, but there's a level of awareness that you can have that will still make you paranoid about it and make you never want to go to anywhere again. But I got a couple more questions for you. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm really excited about these ones, and I don't know if we'll put all these on the recording, but I'm gonna do them anyways. All right, so here's another question: Is so in different parts of the U.S. and stuff like that, hear about like a water shortage and growing water demand and things like that. What do you feel like, since you're in the industry and you actually have some type of credentials and you're not just like a random human that's just reading stuff on the internet? What do you kind of feel about that mixed with the AI uh, data centers?
Ooh,
I
we could
know,
have
I know,
like
I know.
this is oh, wow.
I know.
Um,
I've been like holding off asking you these things in person for so long.
all right. Um, so without getting like too biblically or anything, I guess
Yeah.
let's just say it this way, right? We all have the recipe for water. Only one person can make it,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Let's not waste it on something stupid like if you can physically look around, right? You're almost as old as I am. You can remember back when you were a young teen. You can remember how much more water was sitting on the sides of the roads, how much more
Absolutely.
swamps we had, how much
Yep.
more
Yep.
wetland we had, how
Yeah.
higher our lakes were. We've been in a drought for the last 40 years that I know of because we just keep using water. Our water tables are getting down lower and lower and lower. And so
Hmm.
anytime we are going to prioritize a thing over human life, I see problem with that.
Yeah.
And so is there a good purpose? Is there uses for data centers? Yeah, there probably is. But we have to find a delicate balance like we try to with everything else in life. And so that's the way I approach my job is I try to find that balance between giving you fabulous water now and balancing out the environmental impacts of tomorrow.
Yeah. And that brings me to one other thing that I've learned recently is like your RO systems and different things like that, or softeners. There's a lot of water that just goes back, and like it's not. I want to use the word wasted, but like I didn't realize like when we were working with that RO system underneath the sink and how much it was discharging, even with it on. Like there was all this water that never even was going to anything, just going straight back to the drain. And I know that serves a purpose, but that was really eye opening because I was like, one, there was a leak underneath it, so I got to see it physically. But the other part is, I think that's an incredible, like, I mean, I'm sure it's gotten so much better with technology, but you imagine that by all the thousands of people, and then you have the commercial centers and different
Mhm.
buildings, and then you also have manufacturers that are, we're not, I want to use the term recycling it in a way that could be proper, not to get to whatever, but it caught my attention to like, what do you feel? I'm just curious, like on an RO summer side, how much
You're
of
breaking up a little bit.
my question is like when you're using your water like RO filter or something, What, like out of 5 gallons, how much of that is discharged or not used besides what you put down the sink by yourself?
Yeah, so the systems I use are one-to-one systems, and
Oh, okay.
so are typically a one-to-one system. So basically, out of 2 gallons used, you use 1 gallon, or you get to use 1 gallon, and it dumps 1 gallon. There
Wow.
are many systems out there still today that are 4-to-1 systems, so you're dumping
Man,
4 gallons for every one that you're getting.
Louis, that's
Um,
recording right there. That's incredible. I didn't know it was that much. I thought it was like maybe two to
There's
one.
some that are 10-to-1 still. So I mean there's some that are just huge water wasters, and that's where it's like you get what you pay for, right?
Mm,
You these are some of the questions that people should be trying to ask, or that I try to tell them answers to, when they just call me trying to get generic pricing, because it's like, you don't know what you don't know, and sometimes you need help asking the right questions.
yeah. Oh, all right. I got two more, and then I'm gonna be done. Thank you so much for your time. So, what about, like the pitcher filters? Like you have a pitcher and you put it down the little thingy. What do you feel like those are worth the investment?
So if you're in an office building, you're in an apartment, you're in something that, that's one of your only options, that's going to be a fantastic option.
Mm,
That's going to be an actual carbon block. And so when we talk about carbon, there's different carbons. There's granulated activated carbon, there's carbon blocks, there's carbon paper, there's all sorts of carbon. And so
yeah.
the carbon block is going to be something that's really tightly packed, and it holds back and reduces so much more than just a regular carbon, unless you're using like a super high grade carbon. And
Mhm.
so you get a lot more filtered out of that. So it is a good option for people that don't have many other options.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not something that I particularly use. It's not something that I sell, obviously, but
You're
it's
you're at
one of those
the
things that it's
you're
like,
at the restaurant. You're at the restaurant and you're like, you have your carbon pitcher filter. You're like, one second, can you fill this up? And you wait like 30 minutes. Your food's cold.
well, and that's the thing, right? Is that it's so slow to filter, and that's one of
Yeah.
the downsides of those filters is that they
Hmm.
reduce the flow so much. And so
Yeah.
when we're doing systems, we
That's
try to
so good.
balance the flow rates and stuff. So
That's so good. I just imagine like, and I kind of go somewhere with you. We're gonna have like an RO system. You're gonna have like a pump to get the water pressure going for the whole table. All right, all right.
uh,
I'm almost done. I'm almost done. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
so one more question. So if you're on a desert island, right, and you needed to get clean filtered water to live, what is your like what is like the two filters that you would stand by for the rest of your life? Like,
What I would do is
yeah, what would you do?
I would go ahead. I would take that sand. I'd pack a bunch of sand inside of a bottle or something,
Yeah,
and then I would add in some of my coals for my fire.
yeah,
Right, you rinse that coal off, and that's
yeah,
carbon, right?
yeah, yeah.
So now you got the sand for large sediments, and for a lot of that natural filtration, and
Hmm.
then you run it through that carbon for the purification aspect. That's that's the DIY backwoods. The grid fails. You need
Yeah,
water. That's what you do.
yeah. So if the grid fails and you see smoke coming from Jason's house,
Don't come
all he's
knocking.
doing is making us some nice. Don't come knocking. He's just trying to drink his water. That's awesome. Okay, I got one more for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so if you could give like from what you've learned about water, and you could kind of sum it up into one paragraph for like the next generation, what would be like a message you'd feel like you would give on about what you do?
Oh man, um, it's so hard because it's everything that the way I look at it is everything that I do is for the next generation, right? Because if I'm doing my job appropriately, like I said, I'm looking out for the environmental impacts for tomorrow. So that's trying to help our next generation. The more carbon and more things that we use now to purify our water, even the stuff that runs down the drain, if we've ran it through carbon first, we're still purifying it.
Mm,
We're still getting some of those microplastics, some of those PFAS, some of those chemicals
yes.
out, and it's getting locked away. And so those are the things that we're trying to do for the next generation. And I would say drink the best water, the cleanest water possible. Um,
Mm,
and when you're looking at your produce, try to home growing, try to go on farm to table. It's really kind of you. We need to start looking at slowing back down and doing things the old way again. It takes a little bit more time. It's a
yeah,
little bit more work, but we have so much more health benefits from it.
yeah. I there's a book called Reverse of the Crank by Mr. Barry. What's his first name? Oh my goodness. Alder something Barry, and it talks about that, about the disconnect that we have in the manufacturing world, and how it disconnected us from the land. And there is, not that you have to go crazy conspiracy, but there is something, like this morning, um, while I was trying to like bottle feed the goats and stuff, I was like picking cucumbers from Ariella's garden, and like giving some back to the chickens, and like, and I think there's just something about that, slowing down and
Mm-hmm.
being present, that it, and not only that, but like, I don't know, I don't think anyone in my area has grown something that they've eaten, either it's chickens or farm type stuff, right? And it's really the appreciation that you have for steak bites from Rockwoods goes way up, and you really enjoy your food a lot more, right? And I mean, my lifestyle's pretty, I'm out serving people quite a bit, but trying to oh, that was the other way. So my point is like trying to stay grounded, and being conscientious of that, so that we are, I don't know, just the human experience, right? There's we're doing everything to avoid it, everything to avoid that discomfort, everything to avoid, like, give me a torch, I'm gonna burn the water and make it pure. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things about doing things with your hands, and like serving somebody and resolving suffering with the skill set that you have, that really brings a different type of bond that we all need in this day and age. So, but real quick, Jason, my friends that are gonna watch this, and people on the internet, uh, I wanted to mention this one more time. This is Jason Mevissen, right? Water filtration and tried and true water solutions. Guys, I'm telling you, if anything, get him at your house just educated. I mean, pay for the education, but and compensate him for what he's learned. I don't know, from my perspective of being in the industry, and talking to different plumbers and different people. I don't know if I met somebody that has like the culture heart that you have. I really appreciate it, and I think I hope to carry that one day with what I do, and I think it's something that's really looked over, because it sounds nerdy and tedious, but I think the way that you do it and the way that you serve, and especially if we have a business group, right? Like, that you show up and who you are, you're yourself, and it's so fun. And I mean, like, we've laughed and cried together. So I
Absolutely.
know today, to get your time today was really, I know you're needing help. Thank you so much for coming on here today. And is there anything else that you want to share or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to announce we do have online booking through our website. So if anyone wants to book online, we do
Or
free in-home consultations and water testing, basic water testing. You can
yeah,
also feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to help you set up an appointment or anything like that. Talk to you on phone. And we are
yeah.
currently growing, so it looks like we will be hiring somebody soon. So word on the
Okay,
street is, anyways.
awesome. Yeah, and this is your website, right? So, one's the website triedandtrueservices.com, and here you can find all the information that you're looking for, and also there's a video about this. And so, Jason, I know getting to this point, like I was trying to like figure out where the heck I was going to do this, and hopefully my computer was going to work. And I'm glad that we were able to do this, even with my audio issues. So thanks for being patient with me. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate it. I had a fun time, and I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, the next one we're going to conspiracy thing for sure. It's so fun. It's so fun.
That's gonna be a long
But
rabbit
all right,
hole.
I gotta go. Yeah, I
All right.
gotta